Episode 71 of Unentitled Sports is live. Welcome back. Ryan Greenberg and Lucas Watkins with you per usual. We are back already, and we've already got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, the Oklahoma City Thunder are NBA champions, and I have waited a long time to be able to say that because, as I mentioned on seemingly every podcast episode now, I've been a Thunder truther for quite a long time. And it was nice to see the vindication that the Thunder, who were the best team in the NBA this season, won the championship. So that was exciting for me to see because I've sort of mildly been rooting for the Thunder because they're a fun team. In my opinion, they're a fun team to root for, and it made me look good. So I've been rooting for them for that reason. But more importantly, Forever Gaucho AJ Mitchell is an NBA champion. That is awesome. Right. That is the biggest reason I'm excited the Thunder won, because AJ Mitchell is an NBA champion. And for those of you who are following our socials, or I guess just our Instagram, you saw that I posted on the Instagram story a picture of me and AJ when we were both young bucks at the Thunderdome.
Early in your careers.
Right, yeah. We were just wee pups, and now we are both grown men off succeeding.
It's just like the Alex Caruso and the coach.
Yeah, the Mark Daniel. Yeah, totally.
The picture when they're both in the G League together,
right?
And now they're both won an NBA championship.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, me
you
and
guys
AJ
were both in Santa Barbara, and now he's won an NBA championship. You are the host of Unentitled Sports.
Right. Thank you.
Bringing in episode 71.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking for a way to compare myself to AJ Mitchell being an NBA champion, and we're off. We're now both off doing our own thing, succeeding to varying degrees. But that's neither here nor there. But so the Thunder are NBA champions. Lucas, I would love to know, what your reaction to that is, how you think and how you feel about that, and sort of where we go from here.
Well, it was cool to see AJ Mitchell win a championship because I was in a group of a bunch of non-UCSB people when I watched the game, and I saw him, behind Shea during the interview after the game, and I got to drop. I said, that guy went to UCSB. I had a class with him. And
it was,
there he is.
What was the class?
It was some English class. I can't remember.
I thought it was like a global studies.
It was the Chinese. Was it global studies? Or not the Chinese literature class?
Chinese literature was the class that you and I were in together.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
God, yeah. Wow, what a throwback, dude! That was so funny. I remember
we would just poetry class.
Yeah. It was Chinese love stories. And I remember we would just like I remember we would just like gas each other up in the Zoom comments. And it was so funny because it was the least serious class you could possibly imagine in the least serious time in academic history.
It was 2020, prime COVID.
Peak COVID. I think it was 2021. It was spring 2021. And that was kind of like my, one of my only experiences of having like a class with a friend in college. Actually, in high school, I didn't have any classes with any friends just because I didn't have any friends in high school. No, I'm kidding. But it was a super, because that class was the least serious thing you could possibly imagine, and having a good friend in it to dick around in, it was a lot of fun. I miss Chinese literature.
B in that class too. I think I got a B+ in Chinese literature.
I remember also not getting an A in that class, which kind of embarrassing, but you also look at it, and we definitely did not. We definitely did not take it seriously enough to get an A. So
that is fair. Yeah. Well, I had experiences with other friends in my class, namely AJ Mitchell, of whom I did speak a few words to.
Nice.
In that other English class that we had together. So that was great. Really cool to watch that. But outside of that, it was not fun to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder win a championship. It was kind of boring, and each person got to give their little awkward we did it speech. These players are young, but outside of that, are they likable? I don't know. Everybody says, "Oh, this is a likable team." No, this is a young team. Are these players charismatic? No. Which one of them is charismatic? If you're saying they're charismatic, they're nonchalant, they are chill. I think Jalen Williams is cute. I would argue he is cute.
Yeah,
because he's
adorable.
He's adorable. Yeah,
he's funny,
very innocent.
Yeah, and
just soft spoken, and I like that about him. But outside of that, I don't know. It's just, Alex Caruso is a cool guy, but a lot of championship teams, you see some real personality come out after the championship, and I feel like I didn't get to see that much personality.
I saw videos where they like didn't even know how to open their champagne bottles, and then they like took sips and they made faces. Then they like apparently like nobody went out afterwards, and I think it was
Really? Oh my god!
I think it was Marcus Thompson. He's the Warriors writer for The Athletic, but he was there, and I think he tweeted like, "This is the most tame locker room celebration I've ever seen in my life." And it's like, oh,
that's
man.
crazy. I mean, you are in Oklahoma at the end of the day. You're
Right.
in Oklahoma City. Like, which I was telling these guys that like, if I was the team, I would hop on the private jet and go right to Vegas immediately after the game. Like,
Right.
finish all your stuff,
Seriously.
get on a plane, go
take
to
a
Vegas,
shower,
party
plane
all
leaves in
weekend.
30.
Yeah, exactly.
I think part of it is, because these guys are so young, and I think this new generation of young basketball players, all they've done in their life growing up is play basketball. Because, the youth basketball is so much more competitive and serious and time-consuming now than it was. Not that I speak from experience, but, just from what I've read, it's so much more serious, competitive, time-consuming than it used to be, and I don't think these players have a whole lot of time to spend on their lives outside of basketball, and I think that's kind of where you see these guys, they don't know how to drink a beer because all they've ever done in their life is play basketball.
I mean, it makes sense. They're incredibly good at one thing.
Right, yeah. If I was that good at
you'd be a little
basketball,
bit
I
dull.
wouldn't drink as much beer as I do in my life now.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe if I didn't drink as much beer, I'd be in the NBA.
Maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, what it does mean for the league, we talked about this on the last episode. It kind of supplants, hey, the Oklahoma City Thunder are the top of the NBA right now. They are current NBA champions. They are only going to get better because I think that every player on this team is going to be coming back next year. And they have, I think, the most draft capital out of any team in the league, and it's something like 5 first-round picks next
it's ridiculous.
year. They had an opportunity if the lottery balls were a different way. I think they would have taken the 76ers
Yeah, they
pick
had the
up to
Sixers
slot
pick,
7.
but I think it was top 6 protected.
Yeah, that's right. So they could have even had a top 10 pick in this year's draft.
Ridiculous.
Which is just crazy.
Well, and they also have Nikola Topic or Topic.
Is that right?
He was their first round pick from last year. He tore his ACL or his Achilles right before the draft, but he was supposed to be like a top 10 pick, maybe even a top 5 pick, until he got hurt. But I think the Thunder said, "All right, we'll take him because we don't need him this year."
Yeah.
So they have this, assuming he comes back at 100%, this top 5, top 10 caliber player, who's essentially going to be not essentially, he is going to be a rookie this coming season.
That is the luxury that they're going to have continuously because they're probably going to continue to have a very competitive team. And with all these draft picks, like they don't have to worry about players who aren't fully there yet, who might have had an injury coming into the draft. Like what they need to focus on right now is their development program because they will have a lot of players that won't be able to play. So, if they can take unpolished talent
projects.
and if they can sculpt those players into great NBA players, they have 2 or 3 years before they'll even have to like play NBA basketball. So
kind of like Kuminga.
I mean,
that is a great case study of why that doesn't always work.
I mean, the Warriors have never been able to do it, really, in like the recent history at least. It's like our players that like end up getting better, they only get better because they play basketball. We saw Jordan Poole play a shitload of basketball when he probably wouldn't have otherwise because the Warriors were so bad in 2020, and he did get better. But, our like James Wiseman, for example, who wasn't playing a ton, and, Jonathan Kuminga we saw. It's like if you're not playing a lot, it's really hard to develop.
And it's like at the end of the day, there's very little, if anything, that can replace game experience in the NBA.
Exactly. So, yeah, the Thunder are going to have to worry about that. That is very important for the success of the Thunder in 7 years from now.
Right.
But for now, they will be probably very successful with the team that they have right now. And good for Shea. Look at the season that Shea had. I think everybody's been talking about it. I mean, you mentioned it before, but to go this season, win an MVP, win a scoring title, be first team All-NBA. I think he was unanimous. Win the Western Conference Finals MVP, win a championship, and win Finals MVP.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
Like, as far as accolades go, that is a perfect season, literally.
He had a perfect season, 100%. So, good for him. I mean, I'm not going to put him in the top 3.
But but still not a top 3 player in Lucas's eyes.
Still not a top 3. I think Luka's better.
Did he have the perfect season if he's not top 3? if he doesn't receive the top 3 player in the NBA award from Lucas Watkins.
No, I mean yes, because imagine if Jokic had this season, then he would have had the perfect season because I would have rated him as the number 1 best player in the league as well. So that's that. Let's go back to the game though, because this game was interesting. At least the first quarter was when we saw Tyrese Halliburton go down with a very clearly torn Achilles, which was gruesome to watch and really sad after his really hot start.
Yeah, it was physically and emotionally gruesome because, as Warriors fans, complete flashbacks to 2019
Totally.
when Kevin Durant is playing on a calf injury. You can see his Achilles snap and then his calf jiggle, and that is what happened to Tyrese Halliburton. Tit for tat. And yeah, so like it was like physically uncomfortable to watch, as well as like emotionally devastating. Because he had such a visceral reaction, and I just because I think the Thunder are likable, I also think the Pacers are very likable, and I think Tyrese Halliburton is a likable guy and a good person. Not that I know him personally, but that's what the signs point to. And nobody deserves that. And you could see how much pain and how upsetting it was to him, and it was just so sad and devastating to watch for Halliburton, for his teammates, for all the Pacers staff, for all the Pacers fans. I mean, that is as cruel as cruel gets.
Yeah, and like the physical pain, number one, like I can't even imagine how much that fucking hurts.
Yeah.
Like to snap your Achilles like that. And you could see he was like in all this pain, and then he realized, oh shit, not only like the pain was really setting in, and then it's like, I'm not going to be able to come back to this game.
Right.
And I'm going to have to leave for
Not
game
only
7.
am I not going to be able to come back to this Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I'm probably not playing basketball again until October 2026.
Yeah, and like he had the calf injury, and he was playing on an injury that he wouldn't have been playing on if it wasn't Game 7 of
Right.
the NBA Finals. But from his perspective, it's like, obviously you have to play. Like if you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
play,
I've been seeing
you
some
have to
people.
play.
I've been seeing some people saying like, he shouldn't have played. What are you talking about? It's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Like, and not like. And here's the thing: if he had a magic ball or a crystal ball that could tell him, yes, you are 100% going to tear your Achilles in the first quarter, he's probably not going to play. But that crystal ball or that magic ball, it doesn't exist. And so I think if there's a chance, it's like if you're resting Game 7 of the NBA Finals to then be healthy, like healthy for what? Like the whole point is to play in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. There's no point in resting that for something else. So yeah, play. It's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You have to play.
I think even if like you could ask a Pacers fan, Tyrese Halliburton has a 50% chance of tearing his Achilles in this game. I think that they would say, "Fuck it, bro."
I mean, yeah,
roll him out
it's
there.
the most important. It was the most important game in the franchise's history. I mean,
if you're
it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It's the most important game in any franchise's history. Like by definition, it doesn't get more important than that. So yeah, you have to play.
100%. And yeah, well, it was interesting because we saw Kendrick Perkins, who we like to clown on the show a lot. He said before the game, very specifically, he said Tyrese Halliburton should sit out this game. This reminds me of Kevin Durant and how he had a calf injury before. I think it was game 6 that we lost? Raptors in 6?
Yeah.
And he tore his Achilles. And then what happened was Tyrese Halliburton went out there and he tore his Achilles. So, I mean, he had it right.
Yeah, lucky
but
guess.
No one would have ever known otherwise. Because imagine the backlash that Tyrese Halliburton would get for sitting out Game 7 if he
that's
could
not an
play.
option.
Like,
not an option.
No, it's definitely not an option. Very sad to see though. And the Pacers did have some fight, for the rest of the game.
Yeah, they rallied.
They ended up by 1 at half.
Yeah, they took a
seemed
lead
like
at halftime.
they might be able to do it. Like their defense was very good. They were preventing the Thunder from hitting any threes, and offensively, it felt like the matchups were just right. But obviously, in the third quarter, everything switched, and I felt like it was a little bit on Rick Carlisle. I don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention to the to the minutes allocation of the Pacers in these playoffs. But in the third quarter, very quickly, Pascal Siakam came off the court. And after that happened, it just became an offensive rebound fest for the Thunder. And it was T.J. McConnell was the only option.
Yeah,
on
there
offense.
was a 13-minute and 3-second stretch where the only Pacer who scored was T.J. McConnell.
Yeah, and I think that was, I'm sure Siakam was on the court for some of that, but Siakam was not on the court for a lot of that. And I felt like, damn, like, what are you doing? Like, you got to get Siakam back in this game right now. It's falling apart. Like, that was when they went from a 1-point lead down to like a 9-point deficit very quickly. And McConnell played great. Like, nothing against TJ McConnell. Offensively, he was good, but he was turning the ball over. You just kind of like gotta mix somebody else in there, I think. And then on defense, Miles Turner has to take breaks. I get it. But if he's getting bodied and like you have nobody that can grab an offensive rebound, because the Thunder ratcheted up their intensity level, like get Pascal Siakam back out there. You need him on the court. So I felt like that was a major key to the game. And then, once they lost that momentum that they had in the third quarter, and it started to feel like, oh fuck, like this is a win for the Thunder. It's
right.
over, and you don't have Halliburton.
They lost their biggest sail, and then once the wind got taken out of their remaining sails, it kind of just felt like they had nothing left in the tank to keep up the fight.
And the Thunder were just flexing on him.
Right.
Chet Holmgren played great. We saw the compilation of him after the game. His defense in this game was like intimidating, and he was great. So defensively, he was awesome, getting those rebounds as well. Jalen Williams played well. Shea obviously played great, averaged 30 points in the finals. This was not it was pretty lopsided by the end of the game.
And because I feel like in that first half, the Pacers gave everything they had and only had a 1-point lead to show for it. And then in the second half, or in the first half, obviously after the injury, everything that went that could have gone right did go right for the Pacers, and that didn't happen in the second half. The Thunder, I think, were the better team and then began to play like the better team. Cream rises to the top, and I think beating the Thunder without Tyrese Halliburton over 2 halves is too much to ask for. I think
it was.
I mean, it was, yeah, like that.
Yes.
That I think that because that was the case. So yeah, and I think, I think Indiana deserves a ton of credit, which I think they are getting. I don't think anyone's bashing Indiana, especially after that.
Except for me,
right? Yeah, right. Yeah,
and we should get into that. But you're right. The incredible season for the Pacers. Making it all the way to Game 7 of the Finals, having a lead at halftime.
Taking the Thunder to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And I think I saw something where if it might have actually been in the comments section of our viral TikTok, they would have been the first, if they won the championship, they would have been the first team to win a title and beat 2 60-plus win teams in doing so.
It was a really tough road for them because they played the Cavaliers, they played the Knicks, who were a very good team. They played the Bucks, who were falling apart, but that's also a solid team. Not an easy first round matchup, as a lot of people get.
There's certainly easier first round matchups out there.
I was comparing it very much to the 2011 Dallas Mavericks run. Everybody says that was the most difficult championship ever, and I think that the only thing that you can compare this championship to is that, because they were. An underdog coming in. They said in every series except for the first round, they were the underdog in the series. Unfortunately, they came up short, but it was a great season. So let's talk about the viral TikTok that we had. I was quoting Eli, and we talked about this on the last podcast. Eli's opinion, which was that if the Pacers won the finals, that winning an NBA championship is no longer impressive, or it's not as impressive as it was before. And I obviously took some liberties upon that. And I expanded on that take, and I made it sound a lot worse than it actually was by saying that he also thinks that the Pacers would not have made the playoffs in the Western Conference. That was a little bit of fire starting on my end. I understand. But the video went absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It got 200,000 views. It's
well,
our
I
biggest
think what's crazy about it is
video.
you posted it at midnight, and it has 200,000 views.
I don't know. Like a long time ago, when I did actually go viral, I got the 2 million views on my TikTok. That one I also posted in the middle of the night.
Hey.
Interestingly, I just wanted to post it as quickly as possible because I wanted it to be up before the game for as long as possible. In case it did go viral, then I wanted to have people giving the opportunity to respond to it. But the response was very mean. People were not nice in the comments.
What I obviously disagree with kind of Eli's original take 100%.
Yeah.
But what I also disagreed with was the thought that if the Pacers won a championship, it would discourage GMs and owners from trying their hardest to put together as competitive a team as possible. Yeah. I also vehemently disagreed with that because, like, if your goal is to win a championship, you don't half-ass it. Like, you do everything you can to win a championship, and you build the best team possible. Like, if you're intent on winning a championship, you're not going to say, all right, I'm going to try to build a good, not great team and then get lucky. Like, no, you try to build the best team that you can. And no already good teams would dial it back. And anyone who would want to win a championship wouldn't do anything other than their best to do it.
And I think really, like, saying that the Pacers winning a championship is going to change people, like the way that people, ownership goes about trying to win an NBA championship is like, that's just stupid. Like, that's not going to happen. But really what I was saying, I was trying to just come to a conclusion with this whole thing, like, and you should care about this because this is the potential outcome. And that is kind of what some horrible ownership groups do right now, is they do try to be mid. Like, point to the Chicago Bulls, for example.
Or the Kings.
Who are happy being in the play-in tournament because they might go on a playoff run once every now and again, but they're not selling championships. They're selling tickets to more games. Like, that's what they're trying to do, And it feels like their strategy is not to go all out and win a championship. It's to just be a decent enough basketball team that people show up to the games. And that's like a thought process that already exists out there. The Pacers winning the championship does not make teams do that more.
Yeah. I think if anything, it would. I feel like there are some teams in the NBA who kind of the opposite of the Bulls and the Kings, where they have this mid team that's maybe a play-in team or a lower seeded playoff team or a bubble team. I think there's some GMs and some owners that say, well, there's no fucking point in having a mid team because if you're a mid team, the only thing you can do is lose in the first round and get a worse draft pick. And I think there are some teams.
That's what a good ownership
exactly.
would say.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a fine line to it. I think there are some teams that are like, all right, if we can't be a top 4, top 6 seed, there's not even a point. We should just tank as hard as we can. And there's a big difference between being the 7 seed and being the 15 seed. And I feel like
better draft pick.
I feel like right, and among many other ones that are actually worse differences. But I feel like the Pacers are a good demonstration. It's like, hey, if you're this bubble team, a lower seed, a play-in team, a mid-tier team, you're not actually as far away as you think from competing for a championship. Because you look at the Pacers 2 years ago, they were kind of that team. They were a lower seeded bubble play-in team, mid-tier team, and 2 years later, they've gone to 2 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals and a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And I feel like the Pacers are kind of a signal to other teams in the NBA. Say, hey, if you're in this mid-tier, you're not as far away as you think from being a championship contender.
I think you're totally right. There absolutely could be a positive impact of it. And I think that is the more likely situation. It is to say, hey, you guys, say you are a middling team, go add a Pascal Siakam. Why not? Maybe you do have a chance at winning a championship if you decide to do that. And it gives like smaller fan bases hope, or fan bases of these middling teams hope that maybe their team can win a championship. They look at the Pacers, what happened this year. But it was really interesting because most of the comments were directed at me, saying I am.
Yeah,
dumb.
I don't think many people really truly thought that your friend was actually your friend. I think most
they all
people
thought
thought
it was
your
just
friend was. I think they thought your friend was you. I think they thought you were talking about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. I did kind of like phrase it in a way that was pretty tongue in cheek.
You didn't really, yeah, exactly. You didn't really sell the, hey guys, this isn't me. You didn't sell that point very hard.
Yeah, so they came right at me. But I talked to Eli afterwards, and he brought up a good point, which is like this is a new niche. This is a new thing. Like, say outrageously
Oh, I don't think that's a new
things.
niche. I think there are people that do that.
No, but you say that this is not my take. I heard through the grapevine.
Hey,
this
someone told me.
take.
That actually would be like a pretty funny way to brand your videos and sharing your terrible takes.
Exactly. Whenever it's a bad take, whenever it's like a take that might
unpopular,
might cause a lot of anger.
It's not me,
you
it's
say,
my friend.
I heard.
Yeah,
I heard somebody say this recently.
It's a really good idea.
And it worked, but I don't know, man. Like a lot of the I definitely felt worse for the video being as viral. I felt worse. I wish it was like 10,000 views on it.
Yeah,
and it was like a couple mean
comments.
We
didn't really contain the fire.
Yeah.
I got. Well, no, I was, when I woke up the next morning and I saw it, and it had like 100,000 already. Now it's at 200,000. But like in from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. when it got 100,000 views, I'm like, holy shit! And at first I was like, damn it, like why couldn't a video with my face in it, get 200,000 views? But I kind of thought about like, what? I'm glad my face isn't attached to this boneheaded take. But then I was kind of thinking like, wait a second, like. Most of the videos and the reels that we make, we're saying good, smart, thought-provoking stuff. Yeah. That one, on the other hand, is far and away like the stupidest opinion or take that we've espoused. And of course, that's the one that has 200,000 views already. Like, why couldn't any of our other videos have that happen?
I don't know, man. It's wild. We're gonna keep posting ethical content,
right? Unentitled content.
Yes, and maybe mix in with a little bit.
Yeah,
of,
if we need to pump the well,
that's what
again.
the audience wants.
Right? Yeah. Seriously,
the customer's always right.
Stats don't lie. Well,
yes.
if we need to pump the well or grease the wheel again, we might mix in another. Hey, my friend told me kind of video.
My friend told me that Giannis is better than Jokic. Maybe.
Let's. I want to touch up on the Thunder real quick, and then we can shift gears if you want to. But I've sort of taken pride in making a stance on not picking a repeat champion when we do our season predictions.
Yep.
I think that's going to change this year.
Yeah, I figured it would for you.
I think, and this isn't our NBA season preview episode. But I think when the time comes, I will be picking the Oklahoma City Thunder as champions. Especially too because it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of competition for the Thunder because the Pacers' best player tore his Achilles, the Celtics' best player tore their Achilles, the Nuggets seem to not be going in the right direction, and so it's just like I'm looking at the NBA right now and it just doesn't seem as competitive, and I don't really see a whole lot of teams where I look at them and go, oh yeah, they can really challenge the Thunder. Like, I feel like the Thunder are a cut above from everyone else in the NBA.
Yeah, and I probably would also pick them to win back-to-back championships, but every year so far we've done this, I have picked a back-to-back champion, and I've been wrong.
Yep.
So I probably should not do it, but then, of course, this will be the year that the Thunder win back-to-back championships.
And as deterministic particles, we actually have a great responsibility because our predictions actually directly influence the outcome of the NBA according to the deterministic particle theorem.
True.
So think long and hard about what you want to happen, and then make your prediction knowing that will probably influence what happens.
I am going to pick the Lakers to win.
All right. Let's shift gears a little bit because Game 7 was not the only huge thing going on in the NBA world yesterday. Kevin Durant was traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets, and in exchange, the Phoenix Suns received Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick in this year's NBA draft, and 5 second-round draft picks. Interesting. I think it was safe to assume, not that it was a foregone conclusion, but it was safe to assume Kevin Durant was going to get moved this offseason, and I think, both San Antonio and Houston, they were both in. They're both in on both Giannis and KD, but Houston gets the deal done for KD first. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that Kevin Durant is not going to San Antonio, and I don't think Houston is going to go get Giannis. I think that's two big takeaways from this trade. But it's interesting. On one hand, I think Phoenix could have done worse in their trade return, but I also think they could have done better.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, what is the market for Kevin Durant? And the market is a team exactly like the Rockets, who pretty much feels like they're already there. They just need a player that can put them over the edge. So, that's like the Rockets. I would argue, if the Pacers fizzled out, it might be a team like them. You look at these Eastern Conference teams that are like mid and think maybe that would be one of the teams in the market for Kevin Durant. But that's pretty much it, because he's 37 years old, I believe.
36.
36 years old.
I think he's turning 37 by the time the season starts, though.
Yeah, and he has had injuries throughout his career, so he's not one that is not. I think this season he only played like 60 games or something. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much get Kevin Durant expecting that you're going to compete with him next year, and then maybe the year after that, and that's pretty much it. So you don't have very much leverage, and you also don't have leverage because obviously Kevin Durant wants to leave. I think he made it pretty clear. The Suns are in a position where they are very likely to let him go. And yeah, so your leverage is so low. So this kind of return is actually not that bad. I agree. But it's pretty glum for the Suns overall and for their future. But I do want to start by talking.
The sun
about
is shining a little less bright today.
That's true. But the Rockets, the Rockets are flying high, I think. I actually mentioned on the podcast April 30th, this was our round one check-in. I think the Warriors were up 3-1 against the Rockets at this point. I specifically said the Rockets should trade for Kevin Durant. This was before the Rockets were even eliminated. Thank you. And I thought that because it was so clear. The Rockets were a closer away, right? Their defensive identity was what brought them, to be a competitive team. But the issue was late game situations. Right. They didn't really have a go-to guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, do they have a guy?
Yeah, it was really Fred VanVleet, and then in one of the games it was Jalen Green who played well, but he's been pretty much inconsistent outside of that. If you added a player like Kevin Durant, then play solid defense for the first three quarters and then be up by 5 or 6 points towards the end, give the ball to Kevin Durant and call it a win.
Yeah. Well, I also think beyond just the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter, they need a primary scorer in the first 45 minutes of the game too, because you look at the Rockets team. That's a good team, but it's not a great team. It's not a team that I think people really took seriously as championship contenders, because is a team where Alperen Şengün is your best player a championship team? No, I don't think so. Is a team where Kevin Durant is your best player a championship team? And you also have Alperen Şengün and Fred VanVleet and Amin Thompson and the like. Yeah, that's probably a team that can compete for championships, which is where Houston wants to be.
We talk about, to win a championship, you need a player that can be the best player on a championship team. You need a player that can be the second best player on a championship team. And you need a player who can be the third best player on a championship team. That's all very important. Now they have their player who can be the best player on a championship team in Kevin Durant. I think that Amin Thompson can definitely be the second best player on a championship team, assuming that he does continue to progress. That third best player, easily Fred VanVleet. He's been there before. He's been the third best player on a championship team, and I think he's gotten better since then.
What about Alperen Şengün?
That's a good point. I was just kind of pointing out the VanVleet thing because he was the third best player on a championship team. But you're right. Şengün is, I would say, he was their best player this year.
Yeah, and I think, granted, there's a whole season for it to change, but I think starting game one of the season, Kevin Durant's their best player and Şengün's their second best player.
I think you're probably right about that. I just kind of expect that Amin Thompson will continue to get better offensively. Defensively, he's awesome. He might be the best defender. He's definitely, I would say, a top 5 defender in the league right now. And I don't think he's going to get much better at that. But I think if he improves offensively, then he's at least the second most important player on that team if he can improve defensively, especially now that Kevin Durant can take some of the offensive load away from Alperen Şengün. But, I mean, it's a great team. You just mentioned all those players that are really, really good. You know, if they can maintain their defensive identity without Dillon Brooks, surprisingly, the thing that came to my mind when they gave up Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks is, what are they going to do without Dillon Brooks and not Jalen Green? Because, you know, their identity is their
anything
defense.
Jalen Green can do, Kevin Durant can do.
Yeah, exactly. Like Jalen Green,
and do it better.
You can find a player like Jalen Green out there.
What's
spark
the
plug.
phrase? He's like the blank of blank. He is like the Quinn Cook of Allen Iverson's.
That's good. That's really good. But Dillon Brooks brings something that other people don't, which is that level of like intensity and that culture that brings these
Dillon
young
Brooks
players.
is the Michael Jordan of Dillon Brooks's.
That's true, exactly, because he gives it that full intensity.
What
that full
Dillon Brooks
effort.
does, he's one of the best at.
Yeah, 100%. It's sad to admit because he's like such a mean guy, but like it gives them an edge. It gives them an identity of this tough defensive team that's going to like fuck with you.
And I think when he got kicked out of Memphis kind of lost their balls a little bit.
It's true, and there's something to be said about that. So and you replace him with Kevin Durant. And you look at the cultural fit, it's like totally different. Like Kevin Durant is not at all a player who's going to like hurt you physically because it gives him an advantage. Like Kevin Durant is an ethical hooper, as they like to say. Like, he's going to beat you by playing better than you offensively. He plays great defense too, but it's not because he's like foaming at the mouth to play defense. It's because he's in the right spot at the right time.
Involve himself in the dark arts.
7'2". Yeah, exactly. He's not a dark artist. Can they keep their defensive identity? We will see, because their offense is going to get a lot better. If they can, this team is really scary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think Houston is now a better team than they were before this trade, and Houston is now a serious team before this trade. But I am not scared of Houston, at least not yet, because Kevin Durant being on a team does not necessarily make that team a title team. He's been on 5 teams now, and on only one of them has he won championships. And on that one team, he needed to play with Steph Curry and prime Klay Thompson and prime Draymond Green. And this Houston team is good. It's nowhere near as close as good as the Warriors teams of 16, 17, and 18. So Kevin Durant being on a team does not necessarily make that team a championship team. And Kevin Durant has been on better teams and achieved less. Yes, Houston is better. Houston is good, but they're not necessarily there yet. Another thing I sort of noticed with Houston, I think the 5-man lineup that everyone thinks that they're going to play, it has 3 power forwards. I don't know how Amin Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Jabari Smith are going to play on the floor together at the same time. I mean, that's a really tall, big lineup. The shooting's not bad, but it's not great.
It's okay.
And this is a solution that I have to offer. So, Houston, as it stands, they've got like 3 power forwards in their lineup, and they don't really have like a good shooting guard. And I was looking around the league, and I actually identified a team that has a surplus of shooting guards and could use a power forward. It's the Phoenix Suns. They have 3 shooting guards in their 5-man lineup between Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Jalen Green. And they don't really have any other.
Don't suggest trading for Bradley Beal right now.
No way. Just wait. And they don't really have anyone else in their lineup at all, for that matter. So I think the Rockets should trade Jabari Smith for Jalen Green. I think.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think Jalen Green. I think he'd be a good fit on the Rockets. I can really see him in a Rockets uniform. And I think the Rockets really have a need for a guy like Jalen Green, a guy who can play the two.
You're doing this all wrong. You're supposed to say, my friend has this opinion before you start saying something like this.
My friend told me, actually, that should be a clip we should do after this episode.
Yeah, no. But I mean, it's just stupid. That's just like...
right, obviously not.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason why they didn't trade Jabari Smith. Is because Jabari Smith, I think, is maybe the second most valuable player on that team, or most valuable asset that they have. He's like a total sniper from three. He's an elite defender. I mean, he's just a great player. Like watching Jabari Smith,
mean, if he was
young,
that good, he wouldn't be coming off the bench.
I think he will not be coming off the bench. I mean, it's hard when now you add Kevin Durant to the team, who's kind of like the best version of Jabari Smith. But when I watch
Kevin
Jabari
Durant
Smith play
is the
against
Michael
the
Jordan
Warriors,
of Jabari Smiths.
That's true. That is very true. But he hits every open shot. Like he's a total bucket, and he's great at defense. So I think he's really important. But they do need a point guard, or I don't know about a shooting guard. I feel like they do need a point guard, to be honest.
They need a guard.
Yeah, they need a guard, and they have plentiful Jabari Smith players out there. You know, they've got a bunch of big wing guys who can shoot threes. So maybe a trade is due, but it's if you're going to get rid of Jabari Smith, you can get somebody pretty serious.
Exactly.
Like you can get somebody who's on a bad team who's really, really good. I don't know, maybe like De'Aaron Fox and a few first round picks, or
I mean San Antonio
like
wouldn't
that.
trade him because they just got him, but a De'Aaron Fox type player, or like I was going to say Desmond Bane, but he actually just got traded too. But a player of that caliber, and you can see if you can move Jabari Smith. You can see if you can think about putting Reed Shepherd into that spot. Reed Shepherd. I know in our group chat, Eli and Dylan don't seem to really know who Reed Shepherd is. He was the third overall pick in the draft a year ago.
Yeah, but he hasn't progressed very much. I don't know. This team obviously overperformed.
Because he didn't get to play. It's like he was the third overall pick on a team that finished second in the Western Conference. And he's young. He doesn't need, it's like kind of what we said about the Thunder and Topic, or Topic. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like he's young. Like he wasn't like the plan wasn't for him to get a bunch of volume and get a bunch of minutes and see hold him to the fire and see how good he is. Like no, like he didn't play.
But is the plan for him to be the starting point guard on a championship caliber team next year? That's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, he was the third overall pick, and now he's not a rookie anymore. And Fred VanVleet is the starting point guard. I think Reed Shepherd would play the two, which I think that matters because the starting point guard in a championship team, Fred VanVleet, can shoulder that responsibility, whereas a two guard, a little bit less responsibility. And I think Reed Shepherd could do that. Anyways,
Potentially.
I mean, Reed Shepherd was picked third overall for a reason, and I don't think him not being able to get into the rotation of the second best team in the West means that he's a bust. Especially because Houston did not prioritize developing him. Now there's a little bit more motivation to do that. Anyways, so you can see what you can do with Jabari Smith. You can see what you have in Reed Shepherd. You could even pack it. You could trade one or both of them for a better two guard or a better combo guard. But I think this Houston team as it stands, like if you're going to get Kevin Durant, I don't think they should be done making moves because I think the best version of this Houston team involves making one or two more moves.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And can this new look Houston team mesh over the course of 1 year, maybe two? That's going to be the question, I think. But I think at the best case scenario, Houston is the third best team in the NBA next year, or would be like the third most likely to win a championship next year. And I think that like the worst case scenario puts them as like the fifth or sixth. But we've seen the Phoenix Suns project out to be a very good team and then end up being pretty garbage. But speaking of the Phoenix Suns, they were the other side of this trade. And what are they left with now? 5 second-round picks. You've got Jalen Green.
They recovered one first-round pick, but I mean they don't have a whole lot of draft capital from the moves that they made to get them in the position that they were in. They got one first-round pick back. I still think they are at a net deficit of first-round picks, and I think it's a pretty bad one too.
And right now with the team, their main issue was their depth, and they add a little bit of depth with Dylan Brooks, but I don't think the team gets better losing Kevin Durant by any stretch of the word. The question is, are the Phoenix Suns going to try to blow it up? And if I was Devin Booker, I'd be feeling pretty damn bad right now.
Yeah, well, if I'm Phoenix, what's the point of keeping him?
It's just if they want to move forward with Devin Booker continuing to be their cornerstone, but that requires a level of buy-in from him now too. It's like, hey, bro,
and it requires more support and a better roster around him too.
Yeah, and you're in this horrible situation with Bradley Beal where he refuses to be traded. He has that trade clause. And even if he was to be traded, he's not worth very much because he hasn't played very much basketball.
I mean, he's a negative asset. Like you would have to give up something to also get rid of him and his contract.
Yeah. So, I mean, it might be that they're going to keep Bradley Beal, try to move on from Devin Booker and then just tank and have Beal be the tank captain.
I mean, it's hard to tank because they don't have their own first-round picks. And however, if you don't have your own first-round pick, it doesn't matter how bad you are because that doesn't influence, what pick you have. So, I mean, if they trade Devin Booker, they're going to want their own first-round picks back. And I don't know. I don't know who has Phoenix's first-round picks. It's probably Brooklyn or Washington. But I mean, at this point, I also think I saw something that I think Memphis has. I think Memphis has Phoenix's first-round pick in 26. I think Houston still has at least one Phoenix first-rounder.
And I'm looking at it right now. 26. They actually technically do have their own first-round pick in 26. But there's a ton of caveats involved with this. It says Washington has the right to swap with their 2026 first-round pick, protected for the selections of 9 through 30. So if their pick is lower than 9 next year, then I believe that they keep it. But they say Orlando has the right to swap its 2026 first-round pick for the less favorable of the Phoenix pick and the Washington pick. So this is weird. There's like a bunch
and I think that Orlando dibs on it. I think that got sent to Memphis for Desmond Bane.
What the hell?
But that trade has.
I do think that Phoenix has their pick if it's in the top 10 this year.
Okay.
Next year, I mean, in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it, and I'm not. So
it does seem like that.
I can't disagree with that.
So I think that's also kind of the case with 2028. They do not have their 2027 first round.
Well, right,
and 2028.
And the Stepien rule, you can only do so much with every other first round pick that you have.
Yeah, that's
who knows?
right. I mean, I think that it is worth tanking. It seems like, at least for about 2 first round picks to be better. And because the other option is what? It's being a middling team. It's not even middling.
Well, hey, I mean, look at the Pacers. Look at it's like look at the Suns team. You have your Tyrese Halliburton and Devin Booker, and you have a couple good high end supporting stars. Are the Suns? When you look at the Pacers, are the Suns really that far away from competing like the Pacers?
It's true. I mean, how good is Devin Booker compared to Tyrese Halliburton?
Right? I think the biggest difference between the Suns and the Pacers is what conference they play in. I think it's a lot easier to do what the Pacers did in the East than it is in the West.
100%, because in the West you have to fight to make the playoffs. It's very hard. There's 8 really good teams in the West. So if it doesn't work out, in the first half of the season, you can't crawl back from that really, or you'll be in this horrible fight, and you probably will end up losing that fight, still not making the playoffs, and losing your first round pick because it will be somewhere between like 9 and 15. So it's, do you tank? Do you not? I think that Phoenix leads towards tanking right now, which means that we might see Devin Booker on the move. He's worth a lot more than Kevin Durant, I think, right now. Yeah. In any case, it is a very tough situation for the Phoenix Suns, and I would not want to be in their shoes right now.
Right. When I think their only way out of it is getting rid of Devin Booker, because it's like, you look at the Suns team now. They were the 11 seed this year, and they got worse. And it's like, so it's like you can only get so much worse by trading Devin Booker, but the return you get from Devin Booker can help you unfuck yourself, because they fucked themselves nice and good for the next 5 or 10 years. And I think the only way out of that is trading Devin Booker. And it's not like keeping Devin Booker is going to help you make the playoffs and make a run. So trade him and attempt to unfuck yourself.
That's probably what I would do as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just a really bad situation to be in, and this all kind of started after their run to the finals, and then they were sold, and I think Ishbia is the new guy.
But it's like when you look at that Suns team that made the finals, 4 of those 5 starters are gone.
Yeah, and you feel like it's kind of the same team because you still have Devin Booker, but for also two of those players are just no longer good anymore. Who are very good on that team. That's I'm speaking of Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. Man, so close. That was a fun run.
Yeah.
And this has been a fun run. I think that is probably going to do it for this episode 71 of Unentitled Sports. It's been fun, and we'll see you soon for the next episode.
Yeah, been a great NBA season. Already looking forward to the next one. But I was thinking about it earlier today. We are now entering the dog days.
That's right.
And I thought to myself, man, like this whole Kevin Durant situation played itself out way too quickly. I was really hoping that would last into the summer and be super long and drawn out, give us something to talk about. Not the case. So Giannis is going to have to keep us entertained through the dog days of summer. And soon we'll be talking about what the Warriors off season is going to look like. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, here's to a great NBA season, and here's to hopefully a great off season and a great next one. Cheers, guys.